Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Waldman. Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Tuesday, June 12th, 2018. Mark the date. I am signing my contract for a timeshare in North Korea. Fantastic. Our terrific, wonderful real estate president has concluded an historic summit that even had its own coin and may even have had a $1 trillion platinum coin along the way. We really don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. Maybe we'll find out that North Korea was supplied with billions of dollars. Maybe not. No one really knows. However, we will see. Once again, Donald Trump has spent the day escaping questioning that way. He was even interviewed by George Stephanopoulos. Not George Papadopoulos, but George Stephanopoulos. Not George Snuffleupagus, George Stephanopoulos. And valiant effort, I guess. I didn't really watch the entirety of the interview, but I have a nice transcript we can recreate the interview with. Nice attempt at getting him to answer questions, but to no avail. Although no real acknowledgement, I don't think, except for the fact that he sometimes seemed to rephrase questions and ask them again in a different way. That there were no answers forthcoming. And really, honestly, at this point, that's another thing I would hope to see from journalists. One thing at a time, of course. We're just about getting a few of them to come around to, if not saying that he's lying, finding some other way of wink, wink, hinting to us that they know they're lying, but can't prove it in a court. So they'll say he's misleading or whatever. We hope for better language. But we might as well also hope along the way, we'll see how far we get with this lying thing, that you say, by the way, I understand that the words he's giving me for answers are not answers, and that they are in fact indicative of, let's say, the far greater likelihood that he does not have an answer or know an answer or understand what kind of words are put together that would entail an answer. And it's dangerous and worrisome, but we have to move on at some point and say, okay, you're not answering the question. And if you just say he's not answering the question, then he stomps his feet and storms out of the interview. And I don't know. I mean, I don't really think that's a bad thing, but I guess if you're doing a radio or television show, you do think so. I don't, because I could handle it. I just do the whole show myself. You know I can do that. In fact, that's what we're doing today. So welcome to it. Daily Co's Radio is live now. We are reminded all the way from Pyongyang, Maine, by Bill, who says that I, Kagro X, will be welcoming a new sponsor to the show, Trump Tower, Pyongyang, otherwise known as Bill's Place, with excellent views of all the gulags in deluxe air-conditioned comfort and free breakfast buffet, and you can't beat that. Nothing better than a freebie, and that's what Donald Trump thinks he got here in Singapore. I guess there in Singapore. Is he back? Is he flying back? I don't even know what the schedule is today. Who cares? He's telling everybody it's a giant success, and I don't know. We're in for a couple of days of people printing stories about nothing. I don't really know how to explain exactly what went on. Maybe nobody does. Here's Daniel Dale, I know, is taking a look at the transcript of the, is this the Stephanopoulos interview, or is this, I don't know, I see it's labeled G and T, which is interesting. Who gave this transcript? Because G is for, I guess, George Stephanopoulos, and T is for Trump, Donald Trump. Why is he a T and not a D? I don't know. Is that because you can't call the president Donald? But I mean, George Stephanopoulos is S, you would think. But okay, I don't know. And he is zooming in on, well, one part of it. We do have the transcript. I might as well go ahead and grab it, and we'll go through it because, I don't know, we got 2 hours and we got to know. Guys, I'm stuck in the news mindset. We got to know what's going on, what happened in North Korea or with North Korea in these negotiations. 1, they weren't negotiations. 2, it wasn't a summit. 3, nothing happened. 4, even if something did happen, Donald Trump wouldn't be able to tell you what it was. And I think I'm glad we spent some time last week reading that story about the supposed fatalism of Donald Trump and taking it apart and realizing that it really, all it is it's a dodge. It's how to get out of answering a question you don't have any idea how to answer because you're not up to speed on the subject. You're not even interested in the subject. And moreover, you're a dotard and you couldn't learn the subject even if we tried to, even if you wanted to, we wouldn't be able to teach you this subject. So here's the deal. This is the lead on the thing. Let's open it up here. President Trump sits down with George Stephanopoulos, a transcript. And of course, they're going to give us some audio. We'll kill that and move on. It's not even audio about the summit, which it wasn't a summit. It's a car commercial. So, President Donald Trump sat down for an exclusive one-on-one with ABC News chief anchor George Stephanopoulos after the president's summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Tuesday in Singapore, which is full of things you could parse that for a while. Is he president? I don't know. Was it exclusive? I guess that was the only one he did. Yes. Stephanopoulos is the anchor. There wasn't really a summit. North Korean leader, sort of maybe. He's kind of kidnapped the whole country. Whatever. Okay. Among a host of topics, Trump said he trusts Kim to follow through on his pledge to denuclearize, which wasn't made, discusses how long it will take, which he doesn't know, the terrible Iran nuclear deal, which he doesn't understand, and explains, the now viral photo of him facing down Angela Merkel at the G7 summit in Quebec. Of course, that's the way they're circulating and that's the way they're explaining the photo. To me, I see a visual depiction of him being literally in over his head. Everyone is above his head in that photo, literally and figuratively, and I'm not certain why they thought it was such a good one. So here's the deal. The full interview. Mr. Stephanopoulos begins this way. George Stephanopoulos, Mr. President, thanks for doing this. Really, basically, you almost have to. You don't do any interviews. You don't do any press conferences. But thanks for doing this. The last time you sat down with an actual news reporter for an interview, you admitted to firing James Comey over Russia. So good. Thank you. What have you got today? He says, thank you very much. Ready? Here's the G and T, not even gin and tonic, but George and Trump exchange. I don't have any idea why they did this way. I mean, they undermine themselves from the outset. That's very odd. Maybe I'm nitpicking here. Me and the semiotics. Okay. So, George says, we saw you sign the agreement right in this room. It's not an agreement. It's another stupid show thing. Of course, we saw him sign things. I'm surprised he didn't cut a ribbon. You said you developed a special bond with Kim. Describe that bond. Doy. Well, it's been a very intense day. And as you know, we discussed things over the last few months. So, right away he's distracted. You did? You've spoken with him before? Surprising answer. True, right? Like you've spoken with him. You've been in, I thought this was like the first meeting of you. So already he's distracted and can't follow up on the fact that his first question out of the box is a pass. You said you developed a special bond with Kim. Describe that bond. Are you ready for the description? Intense day. We've discussed things over the last few months. Yes, but could you describe that bond? No. You did? You've spoken with him before? Yeah, I have spoken. Yes, I've spoken to him. Of course not. He doesn't speak Korean. You've spoken to a translator? Maybe, but probably not. Listen to the answer. Yeah, I've spoken. Yes, I've spoken to him and I've spoken to a lot of people. As you know, I would say very top person was at the White House last week. And so we've developed a pretty good relationship in terms of getting things done. It got done. I think it's a terrific document. It's a starter, but it's a terrific document. I think far more, and there are things we negotiated after that document that are also very important. Already, even in his dodge, he's scatterbrained, but have you spoken with him? I would say his top person was, and I don't know. Yeah, it got done. It's a starter. We didn't do anything, but it's a terrific document. And there's even things more terrific than the document that I can't even tell you what they are because they're not in the document. Okay, but, then, did you describe the bond? No. Did you answer the question? Did you talk to him or did you talk to top people? No, not that either. What did you get done? Something terrific, but stuff that's even more terrific isn't in it. What? So there you are. I think it's a terrific document. I think far more. And there are things that we negotiated after that document that are also very important. Like what? Again, distracted, he's got to go. But you got to go with these questions, right? Like what? They're going to get rid of certain ballistic missile sites, like the one they already got rid of, and various other things. Really? Like, yeah, I understand it's a technical subject, but various other things. Empty oyster shells, McDonald's wrappers. They're going to get rid of those things. We're going to put that out later. Again, classic Dodge, right? We'll wait and see. You'll see what happens. It'll be soon, very soon, 2 weeks, right? We're going to put that out later. But we have the framework of getting ready to denuclearize North Korea. Okay? Now, big gap here for some reason. And, yes, because it's on the AMP platform. So everything's all screwed up. Terrific. Next question, if you scroll about 15 pages down, is George G. asking, and the phrase in the document, I mean, he's prepared. Stephanopoulos is semi-prepared on this, although he's not prepared to say, you're not saying anything here, sir. But okay. Right. We left off, Donald Trump is saying they're going to get rid of certain other things. We're going to put that out later. But we have a framework, as he says, they're getting ready. It's getting ready now to denuclearize North Korea. Yeah, about that phrase. He says, the phrase in the document is, quote, complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Okay? That's Stephanopoulos saying that. The phrase is complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Does that mean that the nuclear umbrella that we have over South Korea is on the table for negotiation? Because Korean Peninsula. You know what's at the bottom of the Korean Peninsula, don't you? Right? In fact, some people would say, like, if you're not sure if the whole of Korea is a peninsula, it is. But if you're not sure that the whole of Korea is peninsula, and you had to say, all right, there's one part of Korea that's, mainland Asia, so to speak, and then it extends out into this peninsula. Which part would be, without question, on the peninsula? Obviously, if you know the shape of the peninsula, some peninsulas go south to north. This peninsula goes north to south. South Korea, almost certainly on the Korean peninsula. But no. Does that mean the nuclear umbrella we have over South Korea is on the table for negotiation? No. That means that we're going to get rid of their nuclear weapons. They're going to get rid of their nuclear weapons. We never even discussed the other. They're going to get rid of their nuclear weapons, George. And I think that they want to do it relatively quickly. Now, we're going to see. There's the Dodge. Okay? It's one of those things like, anybody been hanging around the show long enough or know outside of the show? I'm not the only person in the world that knows about this. I learned about everything on this show. I learned about it elsewhere. The Wilhelm scream. Does that ring a bell for people? If it doesn't, look it up. Google it. It's hilarious. You'll find a YouTube video that explains it's an old audio engineer's trick, essentially. It's a sound effect of a very stereotypical scream. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. And it's apparently become an inside joke among the sound editors in Hollywood. Can you slip a Wilhelm scream? It's a very specific sound bite into the audio, into the sound of the movie, the soundtrack for the movie. And it's like a wink to other audio engineers if you can do it. If you don't know what it is, you probably don't notice it ever in movies. But if you watch the video and you get clued into what it is and hear it, you'll never miss it again. And you'll be sitting in a movie and in the middle, and any movie would do it. Star Wars does it. I've seen it in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's in everything. And even in ones that take themselves seriously and you would never think they would allow such a thing. But you'll be sitting in a movie theater, even if you've left to get popcorn, but if you're still within earshot, you'll hear the Wilhelm scream and go, oh, Wilhelm scream. Totally heard it. Among battle noises, anything. It stands out. And I think that now, having read the article we read at the end of last week, it now stands out like a red flag, like a communist flag of Korea or something. It stands out. It's mostly blue, really. every time he says, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see. 2 weeks, whatever. All these variants of the same dodge, to me, sends up a flare. So there's Stephanopoulos saying, look, the document says complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Trump, of course, doesn't want anybody to think that's the case. What happened here, of course, is the Koreans are smarter than Donald Trump and just put that in there. And either he didn't notice or he doesn't care. Or, I guess the one possibility I'll hold out there is they wouldn't get the North Koreans' signature without saying that. So Trump says, okay, put that in there. And then we just won't do that. And, Kim Jong-un will be mad later and maybe they don't finish or even start their denuclearization. But for the moment, historic, a summit, a handshake, no. And that could be it. I mean, if Trump is on his game, which is a con, then that might be what's going on. Or they might have slipped it by him, which is stupid. But I don't think they drafted the document and signed it in secret alone in the room on their own. I imagine John Bolton was there, and I'm sure John Bolton said, oh my God. And he said, don't worry about it. I don't intend to honor it. And Bolton probably thought that was cool. So no, that means they're going to get rid of their nuclear weapons. We've never even discussed the other. They're going to get rid of their nuclear weapons, George. And I think they want to do it relatively quickly, which can't be done. Now, we're going to see. I mean, they're going to start working on it immediately. We're going to work with South Korea. We're going to work with Japan. We're going to work with China. But it really has been an incredible exercise, which, there's nothing Donald Trump knows about exercise, incredible or otherwise, which is also part of the problem you'll see in the negotiations. But anyway, that's just a joke. But then, so that's it. They're going to start working on it immediately. We're going to be working with, what is every country I know in Asia? South Korea, Japan, China, others. And that's it. It really has been an incredible exercise. Stephanopoulos, moving on. You've set the bar for nuclear agreements by criticizing the Iran nuclear deal. Said it's the worst deal ever made. Terrible deal. Does that mean that any deal with North Korea has to be tougher than the Iran deal? I don't know what kind of question that is, but okay. I don't think a deal could be softer. First of all, we're not paying $150 billion, okay? Which we're not, even for the other one. But, okay, we're paying nothing from that standpoint other than what? I don't either want to admit what we're paying or I don't know what we're paying. So how does the sentence end? Predict it for me. I don't think a deal could be softer. First of all, we're not paying $150 billion, okay? We're paying nothing from that standpoint other than, fill in the blank, other than you will see what happens. Ding. I think there's going to be a great partnership with the other, like, Chinese-ish countries. What are they? Japan and South Korea. President Moon, which is a name I can remember because Moon, has been terrific. Isn't he terrific? He's just terrific. Stephanopoulos says, but they have to get, and Trump interrupts him. President Abe has been terrific. He's the Japanese guy. But they have to get rid of all their nuclear weapons? They have to get rid of, I think that they will. In other words, point blank now. So they have to get rid of all their nuclear weapons, right? I think that they will. I really believe that he will. I've gotten to know him well in a short period of time. Okay, that's terrific. But don't hedge. Nuclear weapons, are they getting rid of them? I have gotten to know him very well in a very short period of time. But are they getting rid of the weapons? I think they will. I believe they will. I know him so well. So that's it. Now, so Stephanopoulos, did he tell you that? Did he tell you he was going to get rid of his nuclear weapons? Did you even get that out of him in your fantastic summit? So did he tell you that? Yeah, he's denuking. I'm sure exactly what he said. I'm denuking. He's denuking the whole place. It's going to start very quickly, but isn't it actually really a slow process? And he'll later say, oh yeah, slow. Yeah. It's going to start very quickly. I think he's going to start now. I think he just did. I think he just denuclearized his pants over here. I mean, what? I think he's going to start now. Sure. They'll be announcing things over the next few days. Once again, we'll see. It's coming very soon. They'll be announcing things over the next few days, talking about other missile sites, because they were, as you know, they were sending out a lot of missiles. That's the word for it. Sending out
T-minus 3, 2, 1. Send out that missile.
What is that terminology? I cannot think. Launching, testing, what? Sending out. They've been putting in the sky a lot of, what are these things? They're like pencils, but big with boomers on the top. So, really? They're sending out, all right, fine, nitpicking. It was a period of time where I was saying, what are they doing? We're still in that period of time, Don. It was a period of time where I was saying, what are they doing? Every week, it seems another missile going up. I mean, they're going to be getting rid of sites. Now, they already did get rid of a site. They showed that on television. We blew up a site. There were lots of theories about whether they had to, whether the thing had been condemned, filled with cockroaches. I don't know. Was it a good faith showing of some kind? Nobody really knows because it's North Korea. But you'll be glad to know there was a period of time where the president of the United States was saying, what are they doing? I don't even know. It seems like another missile is going in the blue air above our heads. I mean, they're going to be getting rid of sites. Well, we know that. So is he going to stop testing? Asks Stephanopoulos. How many months has it been, George? 7, where there's been no missiles going out? Yeah, that's is he going to stop testing? Future tense question. Is he going to stop? Answer, past tense. Well, the past 7 months in the run-up to this possible meeting, they haven't done it because they knew that if they did, they would still get the meeting, I guess, probably. But okay. So Stephanopoulos follows up. He's committed to not starting that up again. He's committed to not starting again. That won't be happening. And that's actually an answer, sort of. I mean, I don't think it's right, but it's an answer. He means it. He means it. He really wants to do something, I think, terrific for their country. And it's the only way it can be. It's the only way it can be terrific. This hurts to read and to laugh at, but I mean, he wants to do something terrific for the country. And the only thing I can think of that would be terrific would be if he really meant it. So I want it to be terrific. So that's it. It's terrific. It's a terrific thing. And the only terrific thing there is if he said in Korean, which I totally understand, exactly what I'm telling you now in English. Okay, fine. How long is it going to take? It's going to happen very quickly. He's starting on it right now. But how long is it going to take? You know, if you look at it, if you talk to the experts, you can't just do it immediately. That is true. That is true. Stephanopoulos, although, knew the answer. Some say 15 years, he says. And I don't know. Does Trump want to admit to that? Because that means it won't happen until long after he's gone. Probably long after he's dead, to be honest. But okay, some say 15 years. It takes a period of time. Yeah, I know that. Most things do. Again, time is linear. Thanks for the tip. Some say 15 years if you go rapidly. Right? So some say 15 minutes. But when you're in the process of doing it, you're really dismantling. In other words, you can't do anything during that period of time. What does that even mean? But they have a process for getting rid of nukes that does take, it's not like, oh, gee, we'll get rid of them tomorrow. It just can't be done scientifically. But they're going to do it. They're going to start immediately. They already started, like your wall, right? They blew up a site, which was the real deal site. That was their big site. They've blown it up. Yeah, by the way, in case you were wondering, was it staged? No, it's not. It was the real deal. The real deal site. And it was big. And they've blown it up. They're getting rid of things that haven't been mentioned in the document. They're getting rid of certain missile areas. And they're not going to be sending missiles up. Again, still can't think of the word. They're not doing research. Okay, and Stephanopoulos says, and they're going to announce that and confirm it as well, these additional steps. Say it. Yeah, are they going to say it? Are they going to acknowledge that what you said isn't total BS? Is the question. The North Koreans are going to announce these additional steps as well. Yeah, they're going to be announcing them, wait for it, shortly. They might have announced them already, but I don't understand Korean, I'm sure, is the implied message. They might have announced them already. What? When? Where? Why? How would we not have heard this? Even if we don't understand Korean. Certainly that would have been translated for us. No, it wouldn't have been announced already. Look at this dodge. Yeah, they're going to be announcing them. When? Shortly. You know what? You might even have missed it. They might have announced them already. But after we signed, we agreed to that also. And I'm doing something that I've wanted to do from the beginning. We've stopped playing those war games that cost us a fortune. Those joint military exercises with Korea and sometimes Japan, you mean? We're stopped playing those war games that cost us a fortune. You know, we're spending a fortune. Every couple of months, we're doing war games with South Korea. And I said, what's this costing? We're flying planes in from Guam. We're bombing empty mountains for practice. I said, I want to stop that, and I will stop that. And I think it's very provocative. Oh, you think? Yeah, that's pretty provocative, I would say. You bet. All right, well, look, it's time for us to exit into the break. But I did get a note from Armando that said he had a few things that he might want to say about the North Korea situation. I will invite him to do that, and maybe during the break is a great time to call in and get hooked up for the great thoughts that you have stored up about North Korea. And I know a guy who's, president of the United States who'd like to borrow a few, if you're willing to let some go. Asking for a friend who I hate. I am, all right. Well, look, we'll come back and read more of this astonishing interview after this. Hi, it's me, David Waldman, your host for Kagro in the Morning, interrupting this little break to say thanks so much to all of you who are contributing supporters of Kagro in the Morning. Thousands of you are downloading the show each day, but fewer than 1 in 25 regular listeners are donating to help keep us on the air. For the money you'd spend on a single 3-minute iTunes song, we bring you 2 hours of great news and entertainment every day, 5 days a week. Patreon.com, Patreon.com makes it easy. You can find us there by searching Kagro X or David Waldman or Kagro in the Morning or even Daily Coast Radio in their search box, and you'll be right where you need to be to make easy, recurring monthly contributions to support our show. Once again, thanks so much for your support. Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Let's see. We'll see if we can't raise Armando at some point. Hi, Armando. Are you out there? We can accommodate you. I didn't answer immediately. I was on a roll, and he may have walked out to get breakfast. But door's always open. Anyway, we'll continue with this thing, although we can't let it eat up the entire show. But it is very powerful in a way, this interview, and very revealing. And a lot of folks think the same thing about it. As a matter of fact, we had a couple of comments. Let's see. Parlio saying, by the way, I bet that even after this summit, we shouldn't even bother calling it a summit. What is it? After the summit, he couldn't point out either Korea on a map. And he probably couldn't point out the second one, even if you spotted him the first, by the way. And the mighty OCD, pointing out here that Kyle Griffin, because he's covering everything, has this bit, I guess, the revealing moment from his press conference on the event, and it's a sort of kind of. And, Trump says he trusts Kim. If he's wrong, what about it? I may be wrong. I mean, I may stand before you in 6 months and say, hey, I was wrong. And up to that point, it's like classic Trump. This part, I think, was he wishes he could get back. He says, I don't know that I'll ever admit that, but I'll find some kind of an excuse, which probably was what he meant to say to himself in his head, and he didn't do it. Didn't keep it quiet. Okay, here comes Armando. We'll welcome him in here, along with the note of another Kyle Griffin excerpt from all of this. Trump on his concession to Kim, in addition to telling George Stephanopoulos, and maybe it comes from the interview, we haven't gotten to it yet, but he says, remember, Yeah, who's paying all this cost? Who's paying for all these games we want to do? He says, I wanted to stop the war games. They were very provocative. And as Josh Barrow pointed out, I don't know why I listen to Josh Barrow. He's just out there. Sometimes he says some things entertaining. And he says, doesn't that paint you into a corner, essentially, if they were ever to decide that war games were essential? Because they are, and you're supposed to practice at all times so that you stay sharp in case something goes wrong. And, hey, in 6 months, maybe I have to stand here and say I'm wrong, and they're invading South Korea. And we haven't practiced anything for 6 weeks or a month or 2 years, however long it's been. And we screw everything up and lose South Korea. Well, hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Whatever happens, happens. All of Korea is communist and nuclear armed and hates the United States. We'll see. We'll see what happens. That's his approach to everything. And again, that's not fatalism. That's I don't know anything, and that's all there is to it. So don't practice anything. Oh, by the way, the NRA guys will tell you that's a great approach to everything. Absolutely. Don't practice. Don't go to the range. Don't practice anything. Don't stay sharp. Just whip out a pistol whenever you think something might be threatening you and just fire. Doesn't matter. It's in the movie theater. You think the gunshots came from the screen. Who cares? Just shoot. Go ahead. Everything will be fine. So not very reassuring, to be sure. But here's Armando. I'm sure you thought it was great, right? You're a huge Trump fan now.
No, obviously not.
Okay.
But
right. Well, we'll hang up on you then.
I'm trying to be dispassionate about it, and
yeah. All right.
You can't eliminate Trump from the equation because it's important in terms of where we go. Suppose it was just some ordinary awful president.
Yes.
Pick a name.
We've had that.
And they
Millard Fillmore.
And they made what I consider a mistake of going to this summit without having done comprehensive groundwork. Right. I'm someone who does believe the symbolism of a presidential meeting carries great weight and great expectation and great responsibility. And you don't do it till you have basic understandings that just need perhaps final tweaking or basically are tweaked, and basically the whole thing is set up for a big announcement. I don't think you can start negotiations at the presidential summit level. It doesn't work, and it creates great pressure. That's just for your run-of-the-mill awful president.
Right. But what if you really, really wanted to?
Well, let's suppose with this, but let's look at the. Well, we have Trump, who's beyond awful, stupid, everything I've ever said about him, which remains true.
Mm-hmm.
North Korea is not going to denuclearize. They're not.
But he said that he was.
They're not.
Oh.
And they're going to get sanctions lifted. The joint military exercises have stopped. And I don't know if North Korea will be particularly publicly provocative. Maybe they'll play along. And I tweeted out, maybe what we're really counting on is Fox 6 months from now creating a Potemkin North Korea that is doing what Trump wants. And what a great one for Trump. And he believes it, even though none of that is happening.
There's no alternative
let's
news.
Be clear. The North Korea problem is a problem for South Korea, a problem for its region. This whole notion that they're going to fire intercontinental missiles at the United States, I believe, is nonsense. It would be suicide. It would be the end of North Korea. That's all the deterrent you can have, because there's not a doubt in North Korea's mind, I would think, or in anybody's mind, that should North Korea actually attack the United States, North Korea would be destroyed, annihilated, because there would be no stopping it. And I don't know that that would even be the right thing to do, but that is assuredly what would happen. That deterrent occurs. So this whole notion, they're a major threat to the United States is nonsense. This is a country that has no economy, no real way of threatening the United States or the West. It has a way of threatening South Korea, which matters. It's important. It's particularly important to South Korea. But, it's not a direct threat to the United States. Would they do that? I don't know. One of the things that the joint military exercises and having troops in South Korea was always intended to signal to North Korea was If you attack South Korea, it's like they're attacking us, and we will annihilate you.
Yeah.
That's no longer so clear. I would say, frankly, if you had to bet on it today, if North Korea attacked South Korea, the United States wouldn't do anything.
Well, I know what he would say if you ask the president, what happens if North Korea attacks South Korea? We all know the answer now. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, which means generally bad, because what you want to be signaling there is if you do that, we will annihilate you.
Yeah.
So
And that's a
do
message
it.
he
That's
would
the notion
love
of
to
deterrence.
deliver. Ordinarily, you'd think that would be a tailor-made message for Donald Trump. We'll destroy you. We'll wipe you from the map. Oh, his fan base would love that.
Fire and fury.
And they would.
Exactly.
But
And you don't have to say
you
it.
can't say it.
Just make sure it's known.
All right, whatever. But no. But instead, we'll see what happens. We'll see. I don't know. We might annihilate them. We might not annihilate them. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Here's the. But that's not what's got me worried now. I mean, the whole idea was a mistake. It was terrible. I don't understand why so-called experts were somehow saying, "Oh, it's better to talk than not to talk."
Oh,
It is.
yeah.
It's better not to go to war. We don't
Sure.
necessarily have to be talking. You know what I mean? What are we
Okay.
talking about?
Well, nothing.
What is there to talk about?
You don't speak
we don't have
Korean.
any
You
trade
speak
deals
English.
with North Korea. North Korea isn't
don't we?
ripping us off with unfair trade deals. So, what are we talking
You know they have 150% tariff on hotels.
about?
I
did
can't
not.
get a hotel there. But now I can. We're talking about it right now.
Yeah,
He is.
Well, I assume you mentioned his Trump praising the beautiful North Korean beaches.
We didn't even get to that yet, but everybody has read that by now. I don't know if they really have any. They got to have some shoreline. I don't know what.
Well,
the
they have
beaches look like.
shorelines.
I'm sure of that. I can see it on
I
the map.
can't
but
imagine they're the most pristine. Well, maybe they are pristine. But
Maybe no one gets to
who
go there.
knows?
They could be in totally natural state. No, I'm.
Just
who
so
knows?
North Korea is a completely closed state.
Yes.
It's basically a big concentration camp. It has 2 million soldiers, which makes it the fourth largest army in the world. They have no money, so they spend it all on that, and they starve the rest of their people. If
That is
you
what
care
I'm
about
told.
human rights, North Korea is a huge problem. If that matters to you, I know it doesn't matter to Trump, and let's face it, it certainly doesn't seem to matter to Americans very much anymore. But if you care about any of that stuff, obviously all that's true. But I'm just taking it on their terms.
All right, and I'm going to go look at
6 months
this
from
maps,
now.
satellite map, and look for some beaches. Go on.
North China has lifted its sanctions, which are really the only sanctions that matter to North Korea. Nobody else really sends anything to North Korea.
Okay.
It's just China. It's not even trade. It's more basically here.
We're going to send you some starbursts. They're
We're going to
terrific.
send you stuff. And that's how it works. And now China's
There's a beach.
gave a big loan to Trump for his Malaysian hotel. I wonder if
Yes.
he had a chance to pop over and take a look at the project.
Oh, he's going to divert the plane. I'm
I mean,
sure.
he should, right? I mean, it's a business trip.
Right. Write it off.
So that's over. In essence,
This looks like a nice beach.
what are you doing? I mean, Trump loves them. The United States is not going to be spearheading, any economic pressure on China to put pressure on North Korea. That's over.
Uh-huh.
And North Korea does something provocative. Fires a missile at Japan.
Sends it into the
Not
blue
the
air.
United States, at Japan. Yeah. I think Kim would know where to do. He's not going to fire one of those missiles that look like they could hit Japan. I mean, hit the United States. He'll hit the one, well, let me shoot one at Japan.
Okay.
Or let me shoot one at some other person that Trump doesn't care about.
Okay.
Or,
Begin.
they do their own military exercises at the border and threaten South Korea.
Okay.
And John Bolton comes in and says, look what North Korea is doing. They duped you, Mr. President. We have to do something about it.
All right.
And
Let's
the
do it.
mainstream press is saying that. And maybe Fox isn't. Who knows what Fox is doing? It's hard to tell what Fox is doing. And that's his main source of news. Though he does read the New York Times religiously. He's very, very in tune to what they say about him. And he probably watches other stuff too. What's Trump going to do?
I don't know.
Let's assume he just does
We'll
this.
see. Yeah.
Just says, okay, we need to restart joint military exercises
All right.
because of North Korea's provocative action.
Yes.
And North Korea just goes crazy because of that. It says that's an act of war. We won't stand for it. And they start firing missiles again at the United States, the test missiles.
That's where I had left off of saying Josh Barro had said, pointed out that by having Trump acknowledge to George Stephanopoulos that American participation in war games or anybody having military exercises in the area is provocative, the Koreans can say, you even said this was provocative. Look, you're provoking all sorts of reaction here in the area by having these exercises, which is a simple answer for Trump. No, they're not. I didn't say that. Okay, well, you did say it. No, I didn't. You misunderstand. Okay, well, so simple enough. He just dodges that and says, I didn't say that. You're wrong, not me. Okay.
John Bolton is in there. John Bolton wanted a war with North Korea since he was a little kid.
That's exciting for him.
John Bolton let Trump do this. He didn't stop him. Didn't even try. He was there.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Free trip.
Because John Bolton wins in 6 months.
Yeah. In all likelihood.
Because he can go in there and he believes, and I believe he can too. I think we're at a much more dangerous place with regard to North Korea right now than we've ever been.
Awesome.
Because in 6 months, look, here's a tweet.
Mm-hmm.
It says, fun true fact, North Korea previously pledged denuclearization in 1985, 1992, 1994, 2002, 2003, 2005, 2006, 2008, 2010, 2011, 12, and 2016.
So they've got a lot of practice at it. That's good. Is there more? I mean, did they do it?
Well, from what we heard last year when we were promising fire and fury, they were celebrating their nuclear explosions and their intercontinental missiles.
Yes. So we've got a history with them. They don't do it, and they promise it at the drop of a hat if necessary, and that's that.
They lie like Trump.
I guess so. Why not? It seems to work for them. I have searched, by the way, on Google Maps satellite view, and they do have beaches. It's not just rocky coastline. There are a few nice inlets, which I'm sure would be fantastic locations for resort hotels. And I don't even doubt that they might do that. Not Pyongyang. No.
Whatever. Trump, whatever the nice beaches in North Korea.
They're there. I don't know that he's seen them, but look, they've got them. And I'm sure he's probably thinking, well, why not? They got things in Vietnam right now. So, in his mind, Korea, Vietnam, both of them are Asian. We had wars in them. There was communists. And now you can go to hotels in one of them. And why can't you go to hotels in the other? He's always kind of been fascinated. He's always, I think, had a fascination with being able to open a Trump-branded something in a forbidden city somewhere. Moscow when it was Soviet, and now North Korea. And I'm sure that he would like to have that in China. Can I actually have one in the actual forbidden city? Because that would be fantastic. And they might even give him that. But I think that's a part of his thing, is he thinks of himself. That's probably part of the reason why he thought he should be president. I'm the kind of person who can do this, even though it doesn't mean anything geopolitically. It looks like I'm a peacemaker, but all it is people. I think the only calculation is people will want to go to this previously forbidden city, and they'll have to stay in my hotel when they do it. So good, that's how I'll make money, as opposed to I'm going to be an ambassador for peace through the hospitality industry. And I think he's going to get that. I think he really might, along with the hamburger restaurant. I mean, it'll be walled off. No Koreans will be allowed to be there unless they're,
Yeah, but
servants.
Cuba had that and probably still does. They have their, their legendary Verdera Beach, which was developed for foreigners.
Mm-hmm. There's a model for it.
There's a model. There's absolutely a model for that.
And it'll be an interesting sort of step forward if in the hands of somebody who could do something with it, having a formerly closed, entirely closed country have an airport willing to accept Western tourists. It's a thing. I don't know if it's any good for the Korean people, but it's a thing. So I don't know. Maybe that may be all he's after. And we won't be able to tell whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. North Korea won't tell us. But it'll give them a lot of hard currency. That was always the worry, like, for instance, with Cuba, right? Don't go because you'll be giving them American dollars or Western hard currencies that'll bail them out. I don't really know that it matters that much.
Again, to the degree that you argued for that, and I was always against the embargo because I didn't think it worked, but there was at least a semblance of logic when the Soviet Union fell. Mm-hmm. And they lost a lot of money, and they needed hard currency. Maybe that would be a pressure point, though. Frankly, it was stupid because the leaders of Cuba don't really care about their people and didn't care about their people. So there's no pressure there. It's like Kim. He doesn't care.
And neither does Putin, and why we can't figure that out about Trump. Like, okay, now we have one of those guys. I guess you always thought it couldn't happen here, but it did, so get used to it.
And that's exactly right. And that, if we change topics, I'll bring up an interesting thought that someone did about how to put trade pressure on Trump.
Oh, yeah.
In these trade discussions, and that is basically personally sanctioned. I think you tweeted about it, too.
Yes, absolutely. We should
personal.
Change to
They should Magnitsky Act him. Treat him like a Russian oligarch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that. And
that might work.
Yeah, there's just no pressuring him. As we discussed very briefly at the end of the show yesterday, Daniel Dale was, tweeting out all the several articles, and you can find them all over the place. They grow like weeds, about how Trump's sanctions are hurting Trump voting families and businesses all over the country. And it's a great tragedy because people are getting hurt, but he doesn't care. My only answer to Daniel and all this, not that he's looking at what my answer is, was, yeah, but Trump isn't that family. He's not that business. He doesn't own this factory in Ohio. He doesn't care.
Let me tell you something, and it's going to offend everybody in the Rust Belt. God knows I'd never do that.
Okay.
They don't care about the factory. They care about separating families at borders.
They love that.
Being a racist.
Yeah.
Making
Sounds
sure that's what people. There's a fundamental misunderstanding of why these people vote for Trump.
Mm-hmm. You know what's amazing is that they don't see that he doesn't care very much. And here is maybe the one example that the media has been able to come up with where I would say, you know what that is? That is economic anxiety. You've nailed it. You found the economic anxiety. And oh my God, you're not even noticing that he doesn't care. That was supposed to be the key to his victory. No, it was racism. I'm telling you it's racism. We got all kinds, a stack of evidence this high that it was racism or racial resentment, or if you want to, I don't want to say racist. Okay, fine. It's
cultural
racism,
anxiety.
But okay, fine.
Yeah.
Now here's the economic anxiety you were talking about, but let's drop it. Let's just drop it because great success. You found it, and he's not caring. And why are you not interested in that?
Why aren't you asking people about it? The same ones you were so sure that's what they were.
Well, the diners are empty because they can't afford to go there anymore because they actually are economically anxious. But yeah, he doesn't care about those things. And there's not a great deal out there. If you really look at, the sanctions idea, there aren't that many countries among the G7 anyway, or people who used to be on our side, as opposed to people that used to be on the other side. Maybe this is part of the grand plan. Why was Trump always so interested in opening hotels in strange locales that were, run by dictators? Well, one reason is the dictator would give them land for free or cut them a beautiful deal. And the other is maybe this was protection against sanctions. One day they're going to figure out that I'm operating like a Russian oligarch, and we sanctioned those guys. But Canada can maybe sanction him over a couple of hotels or condo buildings. And the UK can sanction him over one of his 2 golf courses. The other one's in Ireland, and I guess they can't. There's no G7 country there, but they may join in the sanctions. But the rest of them, like in some of these other countries, these other assets, they're from countries that are happy to keep bribing them. But it would be a great thing. Why don't they? What do you do if they just seize the golf course in Scotland? Invade? Yeah, we won't, because maybe the UK government really not in any position to defy the Trump-Russia axis at this moment either. But I don't know. What if they did do those things? What if there's 100% tax on Trump-connected assets in Canada? Invade? I don't know. I mean,
invade. Well, we did agree to blockade Qatar so that Jared could muscle a $500 million loan out of him.
True. Although they figured out how to get out of that. Out-loan the Saudis. I have something in pocket somewhere. I have to dig back down. Somebody's hypothesis, Qatar won the blockade confrontation in the end. They got us off their back by out-bribing the other guys. So good luck to them with that one. Well done, well played. But that's one of the reasons why you have to sanction him like a Magnitsky Act oligarch. He doesn't respond to the problems that things are going to cause in the United States. The Canadians are, I don't want to slam Canadians here. You stupid Canadians, you hear me up there? But they think, a lot of them think that they have targeted this really well. Like, they're really happy with themselves for having picked retaliatory tariffs designed, they think, to apply pressure in red states, which, of course, blue people live in red states too, and that's too bad. But they think they're being very politically sophisticated in targeting red states. And the thing about red states is they're full of non-Trumps. The people there love Trump. They vote for Trump. They'll be angry with Trump, but they're not Trumps. And so ultimately Donald Trump says, I might lose. But didn't we just hear yesterday, Jared and Ivanka declaring $82 million in outside income last year. They're fine. They're doing fine. They don't care. I might lose the presidency. And that year, the year after that, my kids don't make $82 million. But the thing is, they made $82 million already. So, and they're going to do it again next year. So you're going to sanction me. Now I'm mad because part of the $82 million I can't get. But, we're targeting red states. Don't you see? Your base is going to go, he's not a politician. He doesn't care.
Can I ask you a question about that? And this just shift gears, because I saw a report that Ivanka made $4 million off the D.C. hotel, her share of the D.C. hotel.
Okay. Yes, something like that.
But go back to that GSA report. Wait, how is this not an emolument again?
Because he went to court and said, "Nuh-uh, it isn't." And so far they haven't ruled on it. The guy who
reviewed the contract. Do you remember that memo we read?
Yeah.
Right at the beginning of this total fiasco.
Yep. It's just not.
What is that guy? How does that guy have a job? Did they pay him? By the way, did he at least get a bribe?
The bribe is he's still got 2 legs.
It's just
I'll break them off of your body if you don't write this goddamn memo. All right. Or in Michael Cohen's parlance, what we're going to do to you is going to be effing disgusting if you don't sign this memo. Oh,
that's right.
Crap. Damn, I better sign this memo. You know what? To hell with it. I'm signing the memo. My kids, they're going to be without a father. It's going to be terrible. Fine. I'll sign it. Or what do I need this headache for? I'm retiring in 2 years, whatever the deal is, You're retiring. Yeah, how long are you from retirement? 6 years. Tell you what, wouldn't you like, how about you get and retire next year, rich, Brian, beyond your wildest dreams? How could you possibly do that? Everyone will know you paid me off. I got an LLC. Then they'll never know. pays you. You're going to be a consultant for my LLC. Which LLC? It's called Essential Consultants LLC. No one will ever find out. I've got a very limited clientele. You, Stormy Daniels, maybe like 6 other women, but no one will ever look. Trust me. Michael Cohen, my lawyer, is taking care of it, right? I trust Kim. I found that out today. He said, I trust Kim. You trusted Michael Cohen. He's the worst lawyer in the world. You trusted Mike Flynn. He's already been busted as a spy. That guy's been arrested on spying charges, etc. He's been kicked out of the Pentagon for violating every counter-espionage protocol we've got, trying to install his own private internet connection in a hard, closed office that, has no electronic connections specifically to avoid espionage inside the Defense Intelligence Agency. That's my national security advisor. That's the guy for me. No, Mr. President, the FBI says. You can't do it. I'm doing it anyway. All right, here's the evidence. He's a spy. God damn it. You're fired. You're fired. And by the way, why didn't anybody warn me about this? The 2 people you just fired warned you. Well, to hell with all of that. Anyway, and couldn't we forgive him and have him back? P.S. I trust Kim Jong-un. All right. That's a great record. You're a genius. Well, about time for us to head out on the second break. There's much more to say about this, and we might as well shift topics. It just leads to so many other ones. It's always very interesting. Let's see. Time for our music, and we'll go back to that. And yeah, the sanctions idea, it's kind of sort of gaining steam. I don't know if it's really going to shut the guy down, but I've been interested in watching it gain steam. I read the article a couple of days ago, and it was real exciting. And then Matthew Iglesias wrote the same one, and then said, oh, P.S., some guy wrote that, and kind of gave a link at the end. But I saw the Houston Chronicle has become interested in it as well. Why not? We should flack this all over the country, I say.
Yeah, who have more writing, the better.
Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Just that 1-minute break, and we continued our discussion right through the break. There's plenty of other things to cover, but look, they're all in the same context. Trump is an idiot and has no idea what's going on, including, we had, of course, the Supreme Court decision yesterday, which was a big deal. And I'm informed over from Broadcast Central. Justice Putnam says there's a crash on the broadcaster. So those of you listening live, obviously you're not hearing this, but we'll be back shortly. When we get back, please be aware that I already said we would be back shortly. How's this going to work? Podcast people will know exactly what's going on. It's an in-joke against the live listeners, you and me, Mr. or Mrs. Podcast listener. But yeah, there was a big Supreme Court decision yesterday which caused a lot of consternation, and which Trump found out about 12 hours later and said, guess what? Breaking news. What happened?
Yeah. Well, let's review what had happened, because it's a big deal in a number of senses, both in terms of the result of the case and just to let you know what this court is and is going to do.
Yeah.
It was a case about the Ohio Secretary of State, John Husted's decision to purge voter rolls if they had not voted in 3 consecutive elections. So let's say you voted in 2012.
Yes.
But didn't vote in 2014 and 16. And if there was an election in 18, well, in this case it would be 10, 12, 14, and then you were out for 16. Or 12, 14, 16, then you couldn't vote in 18. And it's documented that such a policy will disenfranchise people of color by a margin of 2-1 over whites. It has a discriminatory effect, a clear discriminatory effect. But that case of whether that violated the Voting Rights Act was not before the Supreme Court. It was a suit that was solely under the National Voter Registration Act, the so-called motor voter law.
Mm-hmm.
The case was wrongly decided, and if you want to know the details, you can read Justice Breyer's dissent, which says, wait a second, it says right here in the law that they can't do this. Literally, that's what it says.
Yeah. Oh, well. LOL laws. I mean, that's it.
Yes. Hello?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. I'm sorry.
As long as you're here.
I thought I thought I faded, and either you faded.
I fainted
and
when you said
just
that.
as a question of statutory interpretation, it's outrageous. There's some basic principles. Some are more. The liberal view is to look at the purpose and to effectuate the purpose of it, of a law. And there's other more strict, if it's not in the text, it's not in the text. You give natural meaning to the text, all those things, right? The strict constructionist is not just a constitutional thing. It also is an issue on statutory interpretation. You might recall that from the drafting error in the Affordable Care Act. I don't, at this point, I can't remember the exact language, but there was like a misplaced comma or something. And if you read it literally, it changed the entire meaning of what was intended by Congress.
Yeah.
Right. And they were saying, well, it says what it says. Congress should have gotten it right. And you'll recall Max Baucus was the reason all that happened, because we didn't have a chance to do a cleanup because he took 8 years to do nothing trying to get Susan Collins. But enough about what a jerk Max Baucus was when he was senator. Here, actually, there was no drafting errors. The statute expressly prohibited what Husted did. Alito and the great John Roberts, who take a shot at Adam Bowden here and say, I was right, Adam, you were wrong, he's a hack. Kennedy, who everybody, the liberals' favorite conservative. The 5 Republicans voted partisanly to uphold the Ohio Secretary of State's purging of the voter rolls in direct and express violation of the National Voter Registration Act.
Yeah.
They will do this on every voting case. They've done it on every voting case. They struck down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which passed unanimously.
Okay. So, who cares?
Who cares? Well, if you
That's
want
all we
to
got.
give people the right to vote, and you want to try, listen, it's hard to get people to come out to vote. It's impossible if they're not on the registration rolls.
Yes.
So when Republicans can strike people from the rolls, that's a big win for them.
Yes, it is. And
so one of the most ironic things was people say, we have to get out the vote to turn this around. It's like, yeah, but they just struck all the people from the registration rolls.
Right. And you'll get them out and they'll be angry because they'll get there and say, I am not allowed. I wasted my time.
They didn't let me vote. I had to do a provisional ballot, and I had to stand in line, and yada, yada, yada.
They'll have thrown that out. Yeah, that's, lots of people pointing that out. It's absolutely 100% true. If you're not allowed to vote, getting the vote out doesn't matter, not nearly as much anyway. But, yeah, there's also a good question being asked, but, not by nearly enough people. All of us asking it, all the media is still holding out on asking the question, why is purging a voter roll a thing? Why is that good? Why is that allowed? Why is it interesting? Why isn't everybody just registered? Why isn't voting mandatory? Bigger question, etc.
Well,
but
let's take
why isn't it automatic?
The realistic question is, why do you have to purge voter rolls?
Right. And
to stop voter fraud is the argument.
Yeah, which isn't happening. But, we've had that argument. It's not happening. They continue to say it is. The chief guy that they sent to do that and to make that argument was so disingenuous about it that the court fined him and kicked his ass out of court. Chris Kobach. Yep. News on him, by the way, just to divert.
Go ahead.
He was fined by the court for his disingenuous arguments about voter fraud. They were so bad that the court said, I'm not only dismissing your complaints, I am fining you $1,000, which is not a lot of money, but, in terms of like, you are lying about the fundamental basis of how we choose our leadership in America. That should be $1 billion fine. But it's $1,000 fine. And maybe for Chris Kobach, that's a big deal. And apparently it was, because this is amazing. If you can't go to jail for this in America, there's nothing you can do, white people. Just go for it. Steal whatever you want. He's fined $1,000. He paid it with a Kansas state-issued credit card. So he took Kansas taxpayer money to pay the fine he was being charged by a federal court for being such a goddamn liar that they couldn't just let him walk out of court with a dismissal. You've got to pay money. That's how bad your lying was. Paid it with a state-issued credit card. Not done. It wasn't issued to him. It was somebody else's. He committed credit card fraud with a state-issued credit card to pay his fraud fine to the court. You've committed a fraud on the court by pleading so disingenuously that we're fining you $1,000. All right, I will steal it. Better yet, I will steal it and put somebody else's fingerprints all over the theft. And here's the $1,000. One, how does this charge go through? Who's at the court that says, look at that. State, Department of whatever, the Department of State, he's the Secretary of State of Kansas, is paying. There's a personal fine. And the fine is against Chris Kobach. And what's the name on the card? Somebody else. He's using like the old Chris Rock, you're that guy credit bureau.
Yeah.
What you're going to do is you take somebody else's credit card and then you're that guy. So he stole a credit card from a subordinate at the Secretary of State's office, who, by the way, why was the card there and the guy didn't find out about it? He was deployed overseas in like Afghanistan at the time. And he stole his credit card and used that. And the court so far is like, well, that's probably bad.
Hey. I got to interrupt with one of the funniest
that's all right.
quotes ever.
We're only here because I interrupted you. Fair enough. Go ahead.
Okay, I got to interrupt back because you'll laugh at this one. Marco Rubio doesn't think Trump actually believes Kim is talented. This is little Marco's quote. He obviously, I would imagine, he doesn't truly believe this guy being Kim, is that talented.
Okay.
I mean, he inherited the family business from his father and grandfather.
Who did? What? Which one?
Exactly.
I mean, next thing you're going to tell me he's fat.
There's the clincher. The family business is dictatorship. It is now.
Yeah. Right, and he's a dictator as well. Thanks, Fox.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. I think I mentioned that yesterday, that nobody batted an eye at Fox having described the meeting of the two dictators. That's good.
Well, she had to apologize. They made Kim Abby Hubsman. That's her name.
Okay.
She had to apologize profusely to somebody. I don't know who.
Who cares? They're all the same. All right. Well, yeah. So I've just got that on the record. I can't believe that, like, why that's not done already. Like that, I read that 2 days ago. Why the federal judge hasn't said, yeah, that's criminal contempt, and I'm locking you up. I don't know. Oh, got to be careful. Maybe he didn't know he was stealing somebody else's state-issued credit card. He's only the Secretary of State. How was he supposed to know? Et cetera, et cetera. But how does this get marked as paid? I'd be like, not only this, one will charge the money back to your card because it's the state's money. The fine is now $500,000, and you're in criminal contempt until you come up with it. And you know what? And I'm giving you a criminal contempt for something else. Plus, you have to pay it. I'm holding you until you pay, and this is ridiculous. You can't do this to a federal court. Of course, maybe he'll be pardoned because it is a federal court. I don't know.
Yes.
But why this isn't like an immediate threat? I'm coming to arrest you. Sending the federal marshals. You can't pay a federal court fine with a stolen credit card. What? I can't? I am baffled by this. No one ever told me. I only went to, get this, Harvard Law School. All right. They don't teach that, apparently. I don't know what to say other than that's incredible to me, and that he's walking free is like pretty good evidence. Do whatever you want. Whatever you want. YOLO, LOL, nothing matters. This is really true. So, Anything else we want to add to this
I'm
picture?
sorry, I keep circling back to the stupid
That is
statements
all right.
on North Korea. And here's
They are
Marco
very dumb.
Rubio tweeting at Nick Kristof. I don't know what Nick Kristof said, but he said, here's his Marco quote. I don't know, it could be a staffer, but presumably this is an authorized statement. He says, I'm uncomfortable with suspending military exercises, and if this becomes permanent in exchange for nothing,
Yes.
you are 100% correct. I don't know what Kristof is 100% correct about, but I assume that he's saying
something great.
you got something for nothing. However, after Trump bent over backwards to be conciliatory, if Kim Jong-un does nothing,
Yes.
and actually it's if hashtag KJU, KJU has a hashtag now.
Yeah, that's
Jesus.
good. We should use that because it's very normal.
Oh, my God. There's room. Just spell out the name. Or just say Kim. Or Un.
They love
If you
initials.
want to save
out
a
there.
character.
Sure.
Does
MBZ,
nothing.
MBS, KJU.
He says this, if Kim Jong-un does nothing, international sanctions will be easier to enforce and increase.
Okay.
What?
I don't know. I'm not sure what that means.
Why is it going to be easier to enforce and increase? There's one sanction that matters, and that's China. And what pressure are you going to have on China? Trump got a loan from China.
Yeah.
He got a loan from China, David.
Yeah. Is that bad?
That is. What is Trump going to do to China? You see that Trump does absolutely nothing to China.
If China is so bad, why are there so many Chinatowns?
He doesn't rail about their unfair trade practices.
No.
He doesn't say a word about China at all.
Nobody has been tougher on China than me.
I got the $500 million out of him.
That's right.
You see, that's negotiating.
If
people.
you had been tough on China, you would also have $500 million. Do you have it? You do not. And I'll tell you who they don't give it to. Wimps. Like you. Whereas for me, did I get $500 million or did I get $500 million? Raise your hand if you don't want $500 million, everybody. Just what I thought. Yeah, I mean, in his world, that's the thinking. That is how, how that works. We all think, you're crazy. You've been softer on China than anybody. You're crazy. He says the same thing about Russia. Nobody's been tougher on Russia than me. He says it, literally. How do we know this is the case? We know that it isn't. No one's been softer. But in his mind, no, you're defining things incorrectly. How much money? Mr. Tough Guy, you think you've been tough on Russia? How much money did you get out of them? How do you get money out of people who are mobsters, right? Well, I guess you have a point. In the Sopranos sense, you're right. I've never been able to muscle money out of the boss, out of another boss. You did, I guess, although, you're on the hook for it and you could be poloniumed out of existence, I guess, at any time. And I would, I'd miss you, see you. But, to your mind, you're holding on to this cash. You've been tough on Russia. You've been tough on China. It's just the rest of us don't understand what you mean by it. So maybe that's it. And, we have this stupid system whereby, it's been pretty good up to now, but one of the weaknesses that Trump found in the system and the Russians found in the system is we, by electing you, whether we did it or not, whether it was correct or not, whether the count was right or not, whether the Electoral College should be a thing or not, that's it. You get to do what you do. You're the president, and foreign policy is now pretty much your prerogative. If you say that the new American foreign policy is corrupt oligarchy, we're an international association of chiefs, thugs in chief, the capos di tutti capo, right? However you would say it in Italian with the actual plurals. It's just going to be the five families: the Putin family and the Trump family and the Al Saud family, and they're just going to run the world this way and trade favors with one another. Okay, I mean that's bad. As Americans, we're supposed to hate that. However, we did say that the president could change foreign policy priorities instead of promoting democracy at home and around the world. Let's promote mobsterism. That's my choice. Wow, we didn't realize that. we were economically anxious and we didn't realize it. Well, you know what's a great cure for economic anxiety is being a mobster kingpin. I am not economically anxious at all, except, of course, he constantly is, but he's a very different definition.
Well, not now he isn't. Let's give him credit. He's refilled his coffers.
Maybe. We think so. It certainly looks like it.
It started in 2007,
Yeah.
2006, when Michael Cohen put him in with the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
And they started buying his condos, and he started laundering money for the Russian oligarchs. And now he's got nuclear weapons and trade policies to use as leverage against the Chinese and Qatar. And, he's leveraged that to get money for his businesses and for his children.
Sure. But can you loan me $130,000 for Stormy Daniels? I'll get it back to you, I promise.
Yes, he did. And he's got the leverage on the U.S. government. The GSA approves a violation of the lease of the D.C. hotel. He doesn't release who his membership is at the Mar-a-Lago, so people can pay him off that way. He gets the Secret Service to pay for golf carts.
Yep.
And
seats on his plane.
He's wetting his beak all over the place.
Yeah. Well, he's doing very well with it. And
you really, I've come to this conclusion, at least on foreign policy. You just look at, and it's hiding in plain sight. Trump's foreign policy and policy goals are actually just very simple. Who's paying me? Whoever pays me gets concessions. Mm-hmm. Whoever's not doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a foreign policy. Something I began speaking about yesterday, kicking off the discussion with actually reference to Brandon Friedman's tweet about our being, as he said, in the midst of the greatest transformation in warfare possibly ever, and Russia leading the way. They've learned it's more efficient to achieve political aims by simply buying off the leaders of adversarial countries than through armed conflict. And just sort of, just saying, look, well, I mean, what would you rather do? You got flattened in the Cold War arms race, to the extent that Ronald Reagan's theory was a success. If anybody wants to believe that that's how it went down, we'll just outspend the Soviets until their system collapses and bask in the glory and reap the, what do we used to call it, the peace dividend. And, we only found out later on that because of the structure of the way the two governments were going, theirs collapsed and ours just floated itself on, fiat currency in deficit spending forever, which turned out to be okay. But if you're trying to recover from that, as Vladimir Putin, do you spend $1 trillion on new weapons systems to get you back to mutually assured destruction parity? Or do you say we could, for a fraction of that, we could simply pay directly into the American electoral system and screw with it along the way through social media, et cetera, and maybe even, who knows, changing the way votes are counted? I don't know. We might as well try it. I don't know if we're ever going to get there or not, but go for it. In the meantime, these oligarchs have got billions of dollars in cash and nowhere to burn it in Russia. So a lot of them want to park it overseas or whatever. And the tax for continuing to be able to be a billionaire and survive, actually literally live day to day in Russia, is Putin says once in a while, I need $1 billion from you. You've got 3. I need $1 billion from you and $1 billion from you and $1 billion from you. Every one of those billions split up into literal $1 million bribes. I've got 1,000 of them for each billion I can raise. There's 435 members of the House, 100 members of the Senate, 1 president, a presidential campaign on the high side, still $1 billion. I can literally just go do the whole thing. And for so much less than nuclear weapons that get us to a stalemate in which we all die. What if we could affect things such that a president would be elected, and it's not my fault that the American system is that the commander-in-chief of their armed forces is a civilian that they elect. That's their choice. So look, how much does it cost to win a presidential race? $1 billion. That's what Barack Obama raised. It's what Hillary Clinton raised. It's not an automatic guarantee. Fine. Here's the $1 billion that you need. Now, when you win, instead of like doing the traditional American thing and being an adversary of Russia, since we helped you out, what if we just said, world peace? Here's the $1 billion you need. Surrender to what I tell you to do. Because what do you care, honestly? You weren't loyal to the United States in some abstract sense. You like flags. Have all the flags you want. Have all the football you want. I'll continue to make you rich. I can always lean on another billionaire to do a deal with you or one of your kids or whatever. Just don't make trouble for me for 4 years or 8 years or whatever you're allowed. Call it world peace. Who's going to argue with you? We're not having a war with Russia? Good. And Trump has said as much. Why am I close to Russia? Because who wants to be enemies with Russia? Being friends with Russia is a good thing. So you just do that. Here's the money. Be the president. And, who's going to argue with you? It's your prerogative. You guys were the ones that decided the president should be able to decide who's an enemy and who isn't. This was your idea. I thought you thought it was a good one. Well, yeah, but now when you put it this way and you pay for the whole thing, so what? I pay. Big deal. Who cares? Do you get to go to the store? Is there still food on the shelves? There's no food shortages, right? Still find you can buy all the consumer goods you want. Nobody's going to give a crap. Just go do it.
Right. Well,
so they did.
I got to tell you, I think that first, before I respond to that, I just saw the quote on the beaches. Did you read the actual quote? It is unbelievable.
You mean his saying he talked about
the North Korean beaches? The actual words he stated, these are in quotes. It says, he's talking about economic development possibilities in North Korea. Quote, they have great beaches. You can see that whenever they're exploding cannons into the ocean.
What?
I said, boy, look at that beach. Wouldn't that make a great condo?
That's what he's thinking. Okay.
Exploding cannons. He's watching the exploding cannons for real estate opportunities.
That's what I said when I was a kid and I went to like Holocaust awareness classes in Sunday school, right? And I said, boy, look at the real estate that's involved in this concentration camp. I mean, clean up all these bodies and you could have a mall complex here, schools. Think about it. The roads are already built. We just paved these things. There's a road right down the middle. Fantastic subdivision. I mean, tragedy, great tragedy to be sure, but I'm seeing condos. Is anybody else? Others not seeing this? I mean,
he's a real estate guy to the bone.
What kind of comment is that? And of course, I love this. He's I'll be so good at the military, your head's going to spin. When they're exploding cannons into the ocean, and I'll tell you something about the missiles. How many of them are they, what do you call it, sending up? He keeps using that there. They send up missiles. They put them in the sky, and they fly, right? So good at the military. Launch, is that the word you're looking for? Fire cannons, and they explode cannons into the ocean. Are they doing that anywhere? I don't know. Maybe. They might have no idea what helps
I just can't believe those words. And
then like, without even touching the real estate part, I'm dumbfounded. But yeah, boy, look at that beach. Yeah, that would be a great place for a condo. That would be a terrible place for a condo. There's a huge cannon. We'll get rid of the cannon, or we'll put it. It'll be in the middle. It'll be Cannon Beach. We'll call it
Cannon Beach. You got it.
And we'll leave the cannon, but we'll plug it up.
Trademark it in China. It's
put a big Trump on it, and I don't know. I didn't see that quote, but I did see that he did say to him something like, "Think about it in terms of real estate."
Yeah,
you can have great condos.
If they have beautiful beaches. I didn't get it. The context
they might have them.
He was watching video of cannons exploding, right. And he's looking at the beach, saying, "Man, you could have a nice condo there."
Yeah, I'm sure. That's usually what he's thinking. When I used to go to the Miss USA pageant, the Miss Teen USA, I would say, "Look at that bikini. You could have a condo in there. It'd be fantastic." That's what I'm always thinking about real estate. Sure. Well, maybe in this case, he really was, because he thought he was going to get one of those. The promise was for a hamburger franchise was brought up. I still really do believe, I keep seeing this picture tweeted of this giant unoccupied Pyongyang hotel. I think they might just say, you can have that. We'll give it to you.
It's yours.
Make it the Trump Pyongyang. It's done. It's apparently the world's largest unoccupied building, and anything that's the world's largest, he'll take. And I really don't doubt that in the end that's going to be his. So we got to take our break, and we'll be right back. Hi, everybody. It's me, David. Let's change things up from the old fundraising pitch for just a minute and talk instead about how you can be a part of our show. If you've got a smartphone or any other electronic recording device, why not sit down and record a segment for us? Read us an important article and give us your take. Or read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Then send the file to me at kagrox@gmail.com, and I'll try and work it into the show. Short segments, a few minutes in length, are easiest to fit in. And of course, I can't always guarantee that I'll be able to play everything, but if you've ever shouted at your radio or TV about something you wish was being covered, here's your chance to change that. Make the show your own. Send your submissions to me at kagrox@gmail.com. All right, well, we're back in. Welcome back to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Trying to arrange behind the scenes. I'm doing delicate negotiations with Kim Jong-un.
I want to beat you, North Korea.
Okay, you already have them all. So that just proves that I'm a better negotiator. Woo, I win. You've got I'm negotiating for the transfer of a quote from who?
You need to
from
read
Marco
them
Rubio?
in order. You got to read Marco Rubio's first about
Okay.
Kim Jong-un, and then
Where did
remind
you
you
send
what he
this
said
thing?
about Donald Trump in 2016.
Did you send this on on Twitter?
On Twitter.
Okay, let's take a look here. Oops, I've opened the wrong thing. All right, let's see.
Edward
Isaac
Dovere, however he
Dovere,
says it.
I guess. Well, so what's he got here? Okay,
He's
opening
got
up tough guy.
Rubio's
Okay.
tweet on Kim Jong-un.
Okay. So this is a tweet from today that Marco
a few minutes
Rubio
ago.
says, one more thing about KJU, which he didn't hashtag in this instance, but later on in the tweet he does. One more thing about KJU. While I know Trump, POTUS, he's addressing him as at POTUS on Twitter, is trying to butter him up to get a good deal, KJU is not a talented guy. Is this his big sticking point? He called him talented. I'm talented. Yes. KJU is not. He's not a talented guy. He inherited the family business. You were telling me about this from his dad and grandfather, which is hilarious. He is a total weirdo who would not be elected assistant dog catcher in any democracy, which is, this is okay.
February 26, 2016.
Yes. Okay. So February 26, 2016, Marco Rubio had, I guess, a similar quote, and Edward Isaac Dovere has found it. Tough guy. This guy inherited $200 million. If he had not inherited $200 million, right now he would be selling watches in Times Square or be doing one of those infomercials on Saturday morning where he promises to teach you how to flip properties. That's Marco Rubio. I assume talking about
Properties
Donald Trump.
on that North Korean
which,
beach.
By the way, I will say this, $200 million or not, he is doing infomercials on Saturday mornings promising to teach you how to flip properties. That was Trump University.
Yes.
He did do that. And he did do infomercials for multi-level marketing schemes of various kinds. And, the fact that he had $200 million never stopped him from endorsing dumb stuff like that. He really literally did do
Trump
that. So
stakes.
yeah, bad oppo on that.
Trump ties.
But all right, well that's so Marco Rubio missing the boat
stepping
again.
in it, and I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but obviously the jokes are running crazy on Twitter.
Yeah, well,
at Marco Rubio's expense.
And he probably I don't know. I wonder whether we're being. I don't care, but I wonder whether we're being unfair to him. He may be thinking he's
Trolling
being anti.
Trump?
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, but again, like with every other senator who's tweeting things like, "Man, we really should do something." Same applies to you. You know how to get to the Senate. Yes, just walk over there and do the thing that needs to be done if you're worried about him. But the fact is you're not. You still think you can cash in on him, and you I guess you think you can position yourself later on, perhaps if this whole thing collapses in.
Well, that's actually worth discussing. Can I tell you why I think people are hard on Flake, and I think they're. And I asked you that question. I know you and Greg discussed it yesterday. The what can Jeff Flake do question.
Yeah.
But Jeff Flake is different than Marco Rubio. First of all, Jeff Flake's political career is over. He may not know it, but I think he does. Yeah. He's not running for president in 2020. He's not running for anything else. And people are saying, well, then why don't you just become a Democrat? Well, he's not a Democrat.
Yeah, well,
Jeff Flake is actually very conservative. I mean,
yes.
I disagree with everything he said, but I think everything he's for, just about, though he's good on immigration. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else he might be good on, but I know he's good on immigration.
Like, we all want to be just strategically speaking. Why don't you become a Democrat? Now, supposing he did, right? And but he did it earlier, and then he said, running for re-election, Arizona. As a matter of fact, Democratic Party of Arizona would like your nomination. You know, people would go crazy. What? No, he's not. He's switching parties. We don't do that. I know. You were just begging him to do it, and so he did it. Yeah, but I wanted him to do it for a couple of months, screw over Trump, and then disappear forever, and then replace him with Bernie Sanders from Arizona.
Right.
Well, all right. Well, that really wasn't in the cards.
That was not in the cards. But and one of the things, you voted for all his tax cuts. The guy's voted for every tax cut he's ever. Yes. He's not going to be anti-tax cut for the rich now all of a sudden because of Trump. I mean, that's stupid.
Yeah.
That's not what he's objecting to. He's objecting to mostly the rule of law.
Yeah. Right. And not doing a great deal about it, but okay.
So and he's doing a very bad job at it. But then I asked, and I think someone came up with a fairly specific look. You can protect. Well, you can't protect all, but you can at least protect investigations and what have you, just on this narrow question of rule of law, if you want, and the different things that you're objecting to with regard to Trump's behavior and Trump's actions, by flipping or at least neutralizing control of the Senate. But can he do that? And that's why I asked the question to you. And people kept pointing to 2001, but my recollection was yesterday. I know everybody listened to the show yesterday knows this, is that you said that the resolution was different in 2001. They had planned for this possibility. It was a 50-50 Senate at the time. So the Democrats at the time of the negotiation of the resolution presumably had more leverage.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that presumably here. So the organizational resolution is a lot more complicated to say, we flipped the vote. We have more votes. Therefore, we get to reorganize the Senate.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work, as you explained to us yesterday. So, but Flake is different than Rubio. I would never, Rubio, you say these things. Why don't you do this? Rubio is a sniveling weasel who will never stand up for anything ever. He is the most spineless piece of crap ever.
It certainly seems that way.
No, he is.
Yeah,
he always has been this. David, he ran as a Tea Party Republican
awesome,
in 2010.
That's yeah.
Then he became the moderate Republican on immigration.
Right.
Then he became the anti-Trump. Then now he is whatever. He's nothing. He's the most spineless, unprincipled, sniveling coward in all of politics. People should understand this. And it's always fun to make fun of him. That's what
a good point.
I spend a lot of my Twitter time doing.
Yeah.
Looking for ways that I can make fun of Marco Rubio. I'm not kidding. I spend too much time looking for things to make fun of him with because I really despise him. But Flake, I don't think, is insincere in his outrage about Trump. I really don't. And he says things that Rubio would never say. And the question is, we'll do something about it. And I sincerely asked, and I still ask, what exactly do you think he can do? And if changing the Senate composition for the next 6 months is all he can do, perhaps that's how he can do it.
Who knows?
And I don't know if there's a way, and you're saying there isn't, if I understand your points correctly.
Well, I mean, there's a way, but it can be foiled by people who just don't want anything of the sort to happen.
Right. So, like,
Joe
Manchin would say, "Oh, well, that's not right."
There's that. Yes. Or just plain, like, let's say, you actually have a majority, a working majority with 52, 53 people who are willing to say that they are Democrats or caucus with Democrats, such that they're counted that way, like the two independents in Congress. And you go to the floor and say, well, we want to reorganize, right? And the only way you can do that ordinarily is by passing a new organizing resolution. Because let's say you show up and you say, well, just count heads. Look, there's 53 of us and there's 47 of you. But these things aren't what we call self-executing. The fact that there are 53 Democrats and 47 Republicans would be self-evident, but then what does it mean? Like, the composition of the committees is this. It should be that, but it is this. How do you change that? Organizing resolution. How do you pass an organizing resolution? Same way you would do anything. Have a vote on it. What is the problem with that? How many votes does it take to keep a vote from coming up? How to filibuster a resolution? If you can put together 40 people who will say, I think we should continue to debate and we should not have cloture on this resolution, then you don't get a vote on that resolution. We just said there are now 47 Republicans. 7 of them can be lost, and you still can't get a vote on a new organizing resolution. So the committee is what it is. There are 53 Democrats, 47 Republicans, except for any who, died or switched or left or quit or were kidnapped by North Koreans. When you go to assemble those committees, it's still majority Republican, minority Democrat. Although some of them, I guess, used to be Republicans and now they say they're Democrats. And in those cases, I guess you might be able to get something done in those committees. But so what? You can't get anything to the floor. Why? Because it's all filibustered. There's still 40 Republicans out of the 47 who feel like, nah, this sucks. We shouldn't do it. So, can you get around that? In ways, yes, you can probably engineer a way around it. But it's difficult. You're talking about people who would be fighting the most brutal constitutional hardball at every turn. What, do we even recognize it?
You're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're burning the place down right now for 6 months, not even, I guess 6 months of stopping Trump. I mean, maybe that's worth it.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, it's nothing.
But it's not a no-brainer.
Yeah, it won't necessarily get done quickly or at all or the way you want it to, and and remember that the whole thing would then hinge on people who are saying, yeah, to hell with it, I'll switch parties or pretend I'm independent even if I'm not, or whatever, but only on this one thing, in which, and if you manage to get to the end, then it's, that the deal would be this. If I have to, help engineer this coup, essentially, then, here's what I want. There can't be any votes on this or that. There can't be any votes on this thing. You're not going to get me. Don't bring up, taxes. That you can't undo those. I'll abandon you in a minute if you go to reverse the taxes or go to even reverse any of the horrible immigration policies. But you'll technically be in control of the Senate floor, not the House floor, so you won't be able to pass anything. And you can't impeach Trump without the House. But the good news is 53 Democrats, allegedly, stand by awaiting the impeachment papers from the Republican House. So, good. Things would be better than they were, but by, I think, a very marginal amount. Not that we shouldn't do it, but since no one really is going to, I wouldn't obsess over it.
And Flake's not going to do it, so it's like, at the end of the day, what's in it for him?
Yeah. So, I mean, the idea of
being
saying,
a patriot.
I guess that's,
But, you know,
we do keep seeing that. Any two Republicans could stop Trump. Well, you could stop him from legislating his way to some of these things. And that's important and valid, and you should do it if you can. Although, you don't have to switch to the Democratic Party to stop him legislatively. Just vote no.
Yeah, I just think
so. They should be encouraged to do that.
I guess so. I don't see what Flake even trying to do that, which he wouldn't, is going to do.
We ought to concentrate.
It just doesn't matter. I mean,
now.
The one thing is, if you're mad that he's getting a lot of credit for saying bad things about Trump, I can get that. And you want to yell at him a little bit, okay. It's not my thing. I actually think the guy's fairly sincere in his horror at Trump, and I think he's a politician, and he was gonna try to continue being a politician until he basically got run out of the party.
Yeah,
and he got run out of the party because he wasn't saying nice things about Trump.
Yes,
I think people should remember that too. He could have been Rubio or Lindsey Graham and played golf with Trump and said nice things about Trump and backslapped Trump and gotten reelected.
Yeah,
and he didn't do that. Maybe he didn't know what would happen, so maybe it wasn't a conscious choice. But the easy way out for any politician is to support the president of his party and to oppose the president of the other party. I mean, that's
he probably was caught by surprise by that. I mean, I'm sure that he walked around thinking, "Oh yeah, I'll have problems, and yeah, it's Trump country for sure." But I'm Jeff Flake.
I'm Jeff Flake.
Yeah.
Arizona's a rock rib Republican,
right?
A Barry Goldwater Republican.
The Flake name is gold in Arizona, and it was.
I'm sure he had that in his mind because politicians delude themselves all the time. Like Mark Warner planted a story yesterday that people want him to run for president in 2020.
I know.
And the guffaws were heard across the country.
That is pretty
to rip
delusional.
on your senator, but come on.
No, it's absolutely true. I mean, I didn't even bother making the comment because who cares? I would say it on Twitter, and what would happen? Nothing. 6 people would say, yeah. But and Mark Warner wouldn't hear it. But it's like, listen, I'm fine with you being my senator. Stop there. And I'm not even really that happy about that. I'm not promoting you. I'm not promoting you. And by the way, and I said the same thing to Bernie Sanders. I helped him with his first Senate race. I worked on the campaign. I said, I have you right now exactly where I want you.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I did not know that. How could I not have known that?
I don't know. I've said it quite a number of times. This is where I want you. No further.
I swear to God, I did not know that.
Wouldn't it be great, though, if one day somebody like Bernie Sanders could run for president? It might be. I don't know. But I'm not asking for that now, and I didn't ask for it then, and I don't think this is the situation in which I want it to happen, though I think some issues should be discussed. But since that's not what happens when people run for president, no. I loved having you as a senator. Stay there. That was my position. Wouldn't it be great, though, if we could install his ideals in the White House? Yes, it would be terrific, but we can't, so I want him to stay in the Senate where it would count. I'm afraid, one, we'll lose him in the Senate, and two, I know this won't, in the end, be a high-minded discussion about ideals because people can't resist. They want to be president. They run hard. And that's good. You should mean it.
I'm having a Trump moment. I'm having an excellent memory. Now I do remember you talking about that. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's all right. We're all doing all the old man moments here.
Yes.
By the way, speaking of which, I note the tweet in the closing moments, I guess, of the show. Ryan Strzok, how does he say
this? He had a good one. Read that one.
President Trump says he got North Korea to commit to destroying a major missile testing site. It's already done. But, quote, we didn't put it in the agreement because we didn't have time.
He's got 8 million people there. They couldn't put 2 lines in the agreement.
Not to mention the fact that, well, how about you didn't put it in the agreement because it was already destroyed, and what's the point of putting it in the agreement? But I want to claim credit for that destruction. So we didn't put it in the agreement because we didn't have time.
Again, and just for the record, that site was contaminated completely and utterly and was useless.
Yes, anyway. And so they blew it up. Okay, I didn't realize that.
a waste site.
Well, yeah, so it's a good idea. I mean, well, that's what happens when you blow up nuclear weapons on it, I guess. But so they destroyed it of their own volition before, and that's why it's not in the agreement, because nobody said it was worth doing. But Donald Trump is trying to show how spectacular the deal is so good we didn't even get to put all these other good things in it. Now, another observation, this time from Duke Street Journal on that tweet, is Trump left Singapore early. He left. But he's already making excuses for his lack of results because he, quote, didn't have time. Why did you leave early at all? And now, oh, well, I didn't put a major accomplishment in it because I didn't have time. No, you didn't put it in there because it's not an accomplishment and no one wanted it in there and it would have been useless. But the excuse of it is I didn't have time, but the not having time was your own fault. Like, just pile crap on top of crap. It's unbelievable. The guy doesn't stop. So I thought, well, all right, interesting observation to make on our way out of this conversation. But there's so much more, and there's so many things we haven't gotten to.
And there's 18 issues we're not talking about.
Yes,
including all the terrible things that are happening at the border.
Yep,
and that's how Trump operates. I guess people are
right.
Chaos.
Flood the zone and
can't catch everything.
Yes, nothing, and it's nothing more encouraging to me than reading all these stories, and then worrying about them all night, and then getting back on Twitter in the morning and reading all the tweets about how I've been distracted and I don't know about all these other issues because everyone was focusing on the trip to Singapore. Like, but I spent all day yesterday reading all about the border and everything. Yeah, but you're distracted. I don't know. I mean, most of the people who say that, of course, spent some time yesterday tweeting about Singapore, but they're smart and we're dumb. So it goes. I file that next to those next to headlines that say everything you need to know, you idiot, about this particular thing. All right, this explained because you're too dumb to understand. I don't know. my own media complaint there is constantly being told what I need to know, or that I don't understand it, or I'm ignoring this issue. But I read your article about it yesterday. No, you didn't. Nobody did, because everyone was distracted. All right. I mean, really? That's your position on things. Nobody reads you? Then I guess I don't have to worry about being distracted, because you're the one who said I was distracted, and no one will ever find out, because no one reads you. Of course I read it. I know what's happening. I just can't discuss it all in 2 hours.
Well, yeah, you're not going to have an hour, that's for sure. But it's just crazy. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let you. I have to run. I've got plans to drive me crazy here with texts, and I'm going to give you the final 8 minutes to cover everything else.
All right. Well, we'll do that. That's it. Plus, I got to make $84 million. So, okay. Right. Thanks very much. Just to catch up, just to keep up with the Kushners, as they say.
Well, there's some nice beach property in North Korea.
Oh, yeah. Probably well priced, too. Wonder what they want.
Trump University to show you how to flip that, man.
That's right.
Okay. All right, David. Thanks for letting me rant, I guess, mostly.
All right.
But it's all serious business, and we laugh because what else can we do?
Right.
But the serious situation here, and I think 6 months from now, God, I hope we're not in a much more serious situation, but I fear we will be.
Well, we'll come back and we'll see.
We will see.
I could be wrong. I'll stand here and say, hey, I was wrong, except I won't.
Except
I love that quote.
For it.
I'm not actually going to say that. I just will be wrong.
Okay. All right, Dave. Take care.
Thank you. You do the same. Let's wrap things up, I don't know, with other lunacy that has been floated in the last couple of days. Still really kind of need to get a handle on all that's happening both in the UK Brexit investigations and our sort of expansive exploration of reinvention of geopolitics through bribery that we floated yesterday. One of the other projects that goes along with this thing, I guess if you didn't buy into the theory all by itself, that you could just drop a series of, $1 million bribes throughout the ranks of American and Western, in general, Western democratic lowercase, politicians and convince them. And you're not quite convinced that, well, okay, a combination of bribes and Twitter bots could do the trick. Well, what if there was more to it than that? And of course, we all realize that there are stories out there of the use of mass media like RT, Russia Today, Russian-controlled television, and the Sputnik channel and things like it. There is, however, a news story, I guess, on top of it all that the Daily Beast covered the other day, and we can give you at least a quick taste for what they'd like to do next, allegedly. Lachlan Markay has this for the Daily Beast. New Russian media arm wants to wage information war in D.C. They want to, and they want you to know it for some reason. And how do you do such a thing? You know, of course, you could just bribe some politicians, but how would you convince the rest of America that aren't getting bribes that you were doing the right thing? Well, what if you had unlimited sums of money and you could, plant it everywhere in social media? What if but people really need to see these things on television. So start a television network too and do that. Yeah, but that would cost, what, billions? Because I have it. Oh. But I thought the Russian government was bankrupt. Well, the Russian government as the government is bankrupt, but we can call on the billionaires that we've allowed to steal all the money that made the Russian government bankrupt to give some of that money towards this end. And if you funnel it through Putin, he'll pay you back in spades later on. A Russian government advisor who aims to wage an information war in the U.S. and Europe, curiously enough, is running a new media venture a block from the White House that cybersecurity experts say has ties to the country's infamous disinformation apparatus. In April, Russia's Federal News Agency, or FAN, announced the creation of an American outlet called USA Really. Really? Yeah, that's right. Its website and accompanying social media pages sprang up in May. I haven't read it, so it's not affecting me yet, but okay. Sprang up in May and quickly began promoting a mid-June rally, which they've had great successes with during the campaign, right? A rally to be held in front of the White House in protest of, quote, growing political censorship aimed at discrediting the Russian Federation. In other words, if you keep talking about the meddling Russia is doing, you are discrediting them with misinformation. At the helm of the project is Alexander Malkovich. Malkovich, that should be easy to remember. A Russian media executive and a member of the Civic Chamber of the Russian Federation, a body created by President Vladimir Putin in 2005 to advise government policymaking, which, of course, I guess becomes the vehicle for legitimizing the import into the Russian governmental framework of ideas/wish lists of oligarchs and mobsters. Malkovich sits on the Civic Chamber's Commission on Mass Media and Communication. He's also running the show at USA Really. According to a FAN video on the project, the video features shots of a USA Really office, the space being adorned with an American flag, a Confederate flag, interestingly enough, and a framed Make America Great Again poster of President Donald Trump. So can there be any doubt what they're up to? Why would you decorate it with a Confederate flag? That doesn't make any particular sense at all to Russians, except insofar as it is known to cause division and to give the right kind of wink-wink dog whistle to the right sorts of viewers and get them to believe, hey, they're on our side. They understand America. They're speaking to me and my economic anxiety with that flag. Accompanying piece, not really. It's not supposed to be an accompanying piece. Pointed out, and I have seen it working wonders already, in the New Republic. And now this is written from, the complaint goes on Twitter, a right-wing-ish perspective that they think falsely labels this particular show host as a Russian propagandist. This is the piece called the CIA Spy Who Became a Russian Propagandist for John Kiriakou, as well as several of his American colleagues across the political spectrum. Working for a Russian radio network, Sputnik, is where he feels most free, writes Caroline Lester in the New Republic, and I have seen a lot of pushback on this one. Now, John Kiriakou, apparently, is one of the early whistleblowers with respect to what? He worked for the CIA, apparently, for more than 2 decades, where he made his career recruiting potential spies. Later, he worked on counterterrorism in Pakistan, and he left the agency in 2004, spent 3 years working in the private sector, and in 2007, when rumors about advanced interrogation techniques began to circulate, he went on ABC News and confirmed on live television that the CIA was conducting torture. Liberal hero, yes? Well, in a sense, yes, absolutely. And so it becomes difficult for people who honored that work to later see him as a Russian puppet, right? And it's more proof that all of this is just a fabricated pushback by poor Democrats.
From Daily Kos Radio on networksradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Walton.
I'm going to use the balance of my time to explain myself here. No, it is just a very savvy use of symbolism in the same way that the use of the Confederate flag is in that new TV network. This is holding up a symbol of liberal pushback against George W. Bush as a signal that you, too, should allow yourself to be split off from the mainstream.